the least surprising thing that we've seen this week is that the Greens and the Labor Party have come to an agreement. The kabuki theatre of the Greens and Labor fighting in the Parliament really betrays the truth, which is Labor and the Greens are in an unholy alliance, a coalition, an uneasy and unhappy coalition from time to time. But I am disappointed to see that the government fiddles while Rome burns. Their signature policies in potentially the last week before we enter the election is a shared equity scheme that replicates shared equity schemes that have already existed throughout Australia for many years. Replicating state-based schemes that have already been largely rejected by Australians, with so many places still available in those state-based schemes. The absolute essence of fiddling while Rome burns, and probably where I'm most disappointed with the Greens, is buckling with Labor, buckling under the pressure with Labor to now support a corporate ownership model. The build-to-rent legislation that the Greens have now signalled they will support will provide preferential treatment to foreign corporates owning Australian housing stock. The Coalition wants Australians to own our housing stock, and that will be a massive difference between the Labor-Greens coalition and the Liberal and National parties.
Michael, just following up on that, you've explained why you don't like build-to-rent. You've criticised the Labor government for not pursuing meaningful reform. Remind us, why did you not why did you not support Help to Buy, which seems to be have some similarity to what you're suggesting?
Well, I just described it, Andrew. So the Help to Buy scheme is a shared equity scheme that actually requires state governments to pass their own legislation. So they've taken what were already state-based schemes and brought it national. State-based schemes that were already not being used by Australians because Australians don't want to co-own a house with the government. The New South Wales scheme, for example, had more than 90% of its available places unused. So what genius in Labor thought, the solution to the housing crisis is coming up and replicating a policy that already exists with products that are already being rejected by Australians. And it's easy to understand why it would be rejected. Who wants Anthony Albanese owning nearly half of their home, taking all the upside at the end when you sell it and saying, thank you very much, we'll take our 40% of the uplift in your home, but the costs associated with repairs and maintenance, maintaining a home, those costs are borne by the person who owns the other half of that home. No wonder Australians have completely rejected it. And it's, again, fiddling while Rome burns. We have on every single metric available, and I outlined some of them in my opening remarks, we have gone backwards after 2.5 years. Fewer first home buyers, less homes are being built. And scarily for Australians, if you think the housing crisis is bad, it's getting worse because approvals are down. So over the next 12, 18 months, 24 months, even fewer homes will be built. And amongst all of that, the geniuses in the Labor Party have decided to bring in more than 1.4 million migrants with no idea of where they will live and no concern for the increase in rents and prices that it will cause Australians. We will reduce migration. We will make sure the homes are there. We will build the homes for Australians and make sure they can get into their own homes.
Max, I saw you shaking your head at mention of the M word, migration. What's your response?
The idea that the Liberals want Australians to be able to buy their first home is an utter farce. The Liberals support a policy to give tax handouts to property investors over the next 10 years in the tune of $176 billion. If you're a first home buyer or renter at home right now, you're a grandparent or a parent watching this, know this. Every time your daughter or son goes to an auction under the Liberals and Labor at the moment, a property investor can go to that auction, use tax handouts in their pocket from the government, bid up the price of housing and screw over your kid or your grandkid. That's the housing system we have right now. And of course the Liberals bring up migrants. Of course they do, because it's such a useful tool for them to distract from the fact that the real winners out of this housing crisis, the ones really hurting people right now, are the large property investors and the banks and the property industry who benefit to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. The Liberals were in power for 9 years. What do? Give tax handouts to property investors, build less public housing than any government in Australian history since World War II, help screw over renters. This housing crisis isn't just the making of the Labor Party, it's the Liberals too. And it isn't remarkable, genuinely remarkable, that the Liberals won't take any responsibility for this housing crisis. It hardly gives me any confidence that they're going to be able to fix it.